Lecture 1. Graphic design history is truly the history of culture. More specifically, the story of how we as a society choose to talk about ourselves. Although when you sit down to design a poster, an app, a meme, you don't necessarily think of your actions as historical. They are, in a sense, events within a long trajectory of human activity. The objective of this course is not to make you memorize some trivia about your chosen field of study, but to make you think more critically about what you are doing. To do this, we will break down our semester into 3 sections. For the first section, we will ask, what is design? How does it work? For the second section, we will think about the tools that shape design. And for the third and last section, we will, in a more traditional manner, go over a linear survey of important movements of graphic design. We can begin this course by asking, how different are we from Michelangelo, the Italian Renaissance master, designing the Sistine Chapel? How different are we from Apollodorus of Damascus, imperial architect who designed the Trajan column for Emperor Trajan? And how different are we from Michael Bierut, partner in Pentagram, one of the most influential independent design firms in the last 2 centuries, who designed, as an example, the identity system for MIT's Media Lab? Well, you are very similar and very different. Beginning with the differences. You are young, burgeoning designers. For the former 2 examples, you are neither painters nor are you Roman architects. You live and operate in the United States of America. On the other hand, we can say that you are very similar, in that all of you are planning and executing, to some degree, a way of communicating something to someone about something. There is a client, there is an objective, and there is an outcome. Michelangelo designed some parts of the Sistine Chapel. He has in his workshop designed a set of frescoes. In a metaphorical sense, these frescoes carved figures out of paint, painting scenes around an architectural framework. We can see the depiction of creation. We can see Adam, the fall of humanity. We can see the prophets who made way for the coming of Christ, amongst other things. But in looking at design history, we have to ask ourselves the 5 basic W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. Who designed the Sistine Chapel? Who asked for the Sistine Chapel? Who worked on that chapel? What did they actually design? When did they design it? Where was this design? And lastly, perhaps the most important aspect that is often overlooked, why was it designed? It was designed, I guarantee you, not just merely for visual pleasure for future tourists to enjoy. It was made as a system of communication to perform a very important religious function, which in turn has very important social consequences, which in turn can have very real political implications. It is here where we must invoke a system of visual analysis which we will use for the rest of the course to evaluate design. Any design can be broken down into 3 parts. Number 1, semantics. Semantics in design, according to Massimo Vignelli, the famous Italian-American designer, means to understand the subject in all its aspects, to relate the subject to a sender and of the receiver in such a way that it makes sense to both. It means to design something that has meaning, that is not arbitrary, that has a reason for being, something in which every detail carries a meaning or has a precise purpose, aimed at a precise target. Number 2, syntactics. Syntactics, Vignelli continues, is a discipline that controls the proper use of grammar in the construction of phrases and the articulation of language in design. The syntax of design is provided by many components within the nature of the project. Syntactics is the overall structure of the grid, the typeface, the text, the headlines, the illustrations, animations, etc. The consistency of a design is provided by the appropriate relationship of the various syntactical elements of the project, how type relates to the grids and images from page to page throughout the whole project, or how type relates to each other, or how type sizes relate to each other, or how pictures relate to other pictures, and how the parts relate to the whole. There are ways to achieve all of this that are correct, as there are others that are incorrect, and should be avoided. Pragmatics, Vignelli continues, is our understanding, he says. Any artifact should stand by itself in all its clarity, otherwise something really important has been missed. The final look of anything is the byproduct of clarity, or the lack of it, during its design phase. It is important to understand the starting point and all assumptions of any project to fully comprehend the final result and measure of its efficiency. Clarity of intent will translate into clarity of result, and that is of paramount importance in design. A proper analysis of the Sistine Chapel goes something like this. Semantically, the Sistine Chapel functioned as the chapel for the Pope and his court. It was built between 1473 and 1481. It was designed by Giovanni de Dolci and Baccio Pontelli for Pope Sixtus IV, hence the name Sistine Chapel. It is the current site of the Papal Conclave, a meeting where popes are elected amongst cardinals. The north wall and south walls are painted by Perugino Pinturicchio, Sandro Botticelli, Domenico Ghirlandaio, and Cosimo Rosselli. Between 1508 and 1512, Pope Julius II commissioned Michelangelo to paint the famous ceiling. Decades later, between 1537 and 1541, Michelangelo was commissioned by Clement VII and Paul III to paint the Last Judgment. It is considered to be one of the greatest examples of Western art. Mass and baptisms are celebrated each year on the occasion of the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord within the Sistine Chapel. Today, it is also the culmination of the Museo Vaticani, which costs €17 or around $18. The Sistine Chapel ceiling follows three elements: God's creation of the world, God's relationship to the world, and mankind's fall from grace. And fourth, the ritual itself enacts God's plan for salvation for the world. Syntactically, we can say that the chapel is built in Renaissance style. The vaulted ceiling rises more than 65 feet. It is flanked by 6-foot arched windows. On the north wall are frescoes, or pigment that has been mixed to plaster. These depict the life of Christ. On the south wall, we see events from the life of Moses. Above these works, smaller frescoes between the windows depict various popes. Overall, the emphasis is on the human body, figure composition. You see lots of robes, architectural details, and symmetry. Now, pragmatically, this all adds to very superb masterwork. Whether you see these images in kitsch postcards, funny t-shirts, memes, or whether these images are a cause of a deep devotion, their effects as a whole is a lasting, memorable, and form part of the cultural consciousness. This descriptive process will be helpful for us in this course, in your design education, in your design career, and in your lifelong appreciation of visual culture. To recap, semantics are the what and the why, the search for meaning in whatever we design. Syntactics is a discipline that controls the proper use of grammar and construction of phrases and the articulation of visual language. Pragmatics is the ability of design to be understood and have clarity of intent in the eyes of the user. This system of analysis can be applied to all human endeavors, that is to say, the whole of design, not just graphic design. We will be utilizing this breakdown throughout the semester.